There it is.
All right, we are streaming. If I can get some confirmation on any stream. Hopefully we're streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube.
I got Facebook.
Wonder why I never get notifications from LinkedIn when this happens.
Because they've ostracized you from being first to last.
I got Facebook.
Okay, Facebook.
I got Twitter.
It's live on LinkedIn.
Live on LinkedIn.
Okay, are we ready, Tina?
All right, so let me put Steve up here. Lock them in. Oh, and turn your phones to silent if you would, please. If you haven't already, if you want to share the show, now's a good time. Okay. All right, gangsters, here we go. Mute is off. And we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, and.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
Hello.
Hello.
I don't know
Hello.
why you say goodbye.
Let's all do it. If we
Hello.
all do it
Okay,
together.
this is the Gillmor gang. I'm Steve Gillmor, and that is going to be as long as you're going to get, Tina. Okay?
Can I be Shemp?
He was a really underrated stooge, if you ask me.
Yeah, the concept itself is interesting.
Well, then there was Curly Joe, who was also on.
Oh, yeah. Curly Joe was like Zeppo.
They're terrible.
Or Gummo.
What was the
Gummo.
other one? The other
Who was
one,
less known, Gummo or Zeppo?
who was the other one that
Come on.
cut it out?
Gummo never appeared in any movies.
For all of you people listening out there that don't know what's going on, me too.
Well, they
It's
tuned
called
in
the Marx
for-
Brothers. It's an American comedy group.
They tuned in for insight and intellectual, and we were giving them the Stooges and the Marx Brothers. What else? Could
Well,
Right.
one
Well,
of
the
those
Marx
is
Brothers-
intellectual. One of those is
The Marx
intellectual.
Brothers was
the
in
Stooges.
the Algonquin Roundtable, a very intellectual group of people. So
Yeah, they might have been, but they were on TV because they were like, performing. What do they call that? A physical comedy kind of stuff.
Slaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
who, the Gummos?
You know-
Which ones?
Well,
Oh, the-
either one of them. I mean, the Stooges were more popular because they were funnier. Let's face it, guys.
Well, yeah, and the Stooges appealed to
say it.
kids in a way that the
Hell yeah.
I mean in the TV world, in the TV era,
Hey, man. Pick
there
pick
was
two.
a whole lot more Stooges on TV than there was Marx Brothers.
Yeah, and the Marx Brothers.
Because
were way
the
more-
Stooges
they were-
made an endless series of shorts, and they were on daytimes TV, and kids came home from school and watched them.
Hell
And
yeah.
the Marx Brothers, however, depending on when you grew up, Groucho had a very popular, top-rated quiz show. You bet your life. And
Yeah, they didn't
when I
play
was a
that
kid,
in a lot of reruns.
that was my introduction to the Marx Brothers. It was years before I saw any of their movies.
Well, don't forget the Marx Brothers were about as close to R-rated or X-rated as you could get in the TV era. I think one of the reasons they were on TV, especially Groucho, was that he could skate right up to the line. I like my cigar too, but I take it out now and then.
Oh, he crossed the line all the time. Come on.
Well, all right, so maybe that line too. But
See,
it was-
when you're a little kid, you don't get all that stuff. You get Mo slapping the hell out of Larry. That's what
yeah.
you get.
Yeah.
Sure.
Pick-
But
pick
if you're
two.
a kid and you do see the old Marx Brothers movies, you get Harpo. And kids can relate to Harpo just because Harpo was a big kid.
Yeah, but give me an
Yeah.
eye gouge. Give me, you see this, you hit that, you go. Give me that over the intellectual, highbrow, whatever.
Okay, it's yours.
You can have it all.
It's all yours.
All right, you see that?
Yeah.
Wow, watching for me, the Marx Brothers were just they were funnier to me than the Stooges. I like the Stooges. I watched them. They were a TV show.
There's
To me,
nothing
the
that
Marx.
Nothing to beat
Martin
the
and-
Stooges when you're in college and you're drunk on a Friday night before you go to the party, and you get drunk and you watch the Stooges before you head out.
So 10 or 15 years before you did that, I would sit in my room and watch the Marx Brothers and get freaked out and go out and smoke a joint. So come on, man. It's all a matter of, when and where and why and all.
All right, you got me on that one.
All right. But see, I still love I love the Stooges. Stooges were really good. But back in those days, I was also watching the Stones on TV.
Were you?
Fred and Barney and Wilma.
All right,
Yeah,
I'll go you one better. Benny Hill. I think we could all agree Benny Hill was the man back in the day. No, Keith. No,
On what
Keith?
planet other than Keith's?
Oh my God, he was awesome as a little kid.
I appreciate Benny Hill, but I was never a Benny Hill guy.
Oh man, I
But
love
just saying that you appreciate him is kind of puts you in the ballpark.
Yeah.
That music's coming right back to me.
That's the most famous little theme song for a comedy show.
Oh,
He was. We used to call him the skirt chaser. He was always chasing skirt.
Well, that limited it.
Yeah, with that music. Oh, I love that.
He
Hey, don't
came up
forget the Mel Blanc cartoons from Warner Brothers.
anything Mel Blanc. Woohoo. Anything Mel Blanc.
Man, I love the such intellectual, depths we're going to right now.
I honestly, I'm just sitting here wondering what if I kind of am I still asleep? Is this a dream? What do we do?
well, we'll check back in with you, Keith, in a little while.
Hey, Frank, do you know what's on Mel Blanc's headstone?
What's up, Doc?
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks.
Ah, Yep. I'd heard that, and I just moved too quickly with the wrong answer, as I often do. So
That's all, folks.
that's good.
Okay, so joining us from the British Isles is, well, let's see, that could be one of several people.
Not me.
Currently in the British Isles is Frank Radis. Welcome, Frank.
Hello, Steve. Hello, gangsters. It's a pleasure to be here once again to discuss the trials and tribulations of a great country that once was.
Oh,
At once, what?
ooh.
Way to go, giving up now.
I don't know. The rest of the world seems to think that. But I think
And-
everyone's
and your
waiting to
point?
see. No, I think everyone's waiting to see when France folds.
Wow. World War II joke.
No, it's
or,
funny.
Or a rugby. It could be a rugby joke as well.
No, a lot of people are.
And rugby is what?
I sound like the former guy. A lot of people tell me that in terms of supporting Ukraine and supporting any kind of non-right-wing doctrine in hopes of not having any financial recompense, the first country that folds to get that will be France.
Wow. I still don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah,
What do you think, Dennis?
I haven't been called on yet, so I can't.
Okay, joining us from the framework of Alabama. No, I'm sorry. It's Massachusetts. Is Dennis Pombriant. Can you answer that question?
I'm sorry, Frank. What did you mean? What do I think of what?
France will be the first country that folds when starting to ask for a much additional help in Ukraine, and if there's any kind of problems in the UN, France is going to be the country that folds first. That's all I'm saying.
Fold as in saying no thanks, or
Just not wanting to go along with the majority.
Oh, well, of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she
France
came
would,
to mind.
yeah, and she would be France, I guess.
I don't know.
I
I
mean-
mean, there's so many other contenders. For example, Hungary and Poland.
Maybe Germany wouldn't, Italy wouldn't.
No, Germany's right there on the front lines. Germany's not going to give up, and I think France because they're right next door to Germany, has a similar attitude. They understand that if one folds, it's curtains.
So yeah, it's over.
It's clean.
Well, you know what? There's that, but you could probably say that America really folded and is now in the sort of the road back
How so?
when they weren't supported by the former guy.
So
And-
from the Duchy of Grand Fenwick is Keith Tier. Welcome, Keith.
Grand Fenwick, Duchy.
Do you know what that is a reference to?
We passed the Duchy on the left-hand side.
I was hoping somebody would do that.
Excellent,
It's a
excellent.
reference to the Mouse That Roared, a classic British comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Not as
Peter
much.
Sellers?
Benny Hill.
Was that Peter
Was,
Sellers?
was Bob Monkhouse
I
in
think
that?
he was. I don't know Bob Monkhouse.
Oh, check out Bob Monkhouse on YouTube. He was hilarious. He's a Peter Sellers level comedian.
That's a lot.
I visited Peter Sellers, the location where he's cremated, where his remains are buried in the cremation wall.
Hey, what was it like being there?
Ooh, reference to
I was looking
Peter
for a
Sellers
place.
movie.
No, I was looking for a place for me. By the way,
What I was gonna say is any framing of world history looking forwards that starts with the USA, England, and France is missing the key narrative of the next 100 years, which is all about Asia.
yeah.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
you're right.
Let's go to the next 100 years and avoid talking about Elon Musk.
The last 100 years.
Let's
not
get through the intros.
Yeah. Are we done yet?
No, not even close.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep, Keith sort of tamped down here. And
Behind Steve, there's a show. There's a show on this.
they're releasing the affidavit.
Oh yeah.
It's out now.
It's,
Is
this
it?
is
It is now out.
affidavit. It's like nothing black, nothing. Okay, from the state of next door to Alabama is Brent Leary.
I was all set to have a really bad day. I went to the market just to pick up a salad, and none of the machines were working, so you couldn't just, leave. It took me 25 minutes just to get a salad because everybody was buying all this stuff. So I finally get to the cashier. I'm really pissed. I look over to the magazine rack. Look what I saw.
Oh, oh.
I immediately, the sun came out, it got really brighter, and I turned into having a really good mood. So
How much did that set you back?
you know what? The funny thing is, I just picked it up and bought it. I didn't even look at it until I got home. This sucker cost me $13.99. At least it wasn't
A princely
$19.99.
sum. A princely sum.
At least it wasn't.
Yeah, but
$19.99.
no, but think of what it did for your day. It's way
It
worth
did.
more than that.
Yeah, there's a lot of great pictures. So I'll just say sorry if you lose my attention, because there are a lot of pretty pictures here.
And I'm just gonna tell you this because he told me before the show, but that there was a Rams hat rack right next to that magazine rack.
From the state of Washington
Hello.
is Michael Markman. Welcome.
How do you do?
I don't know.
Okay. That's why I don't know either. That's
This
why
is
I
where
asked.
you talk.
Oh, this is where I talk. Okay, I'm doing fine. Overcast here. We're going to have rain again. It's been a very dry summer for Washington, but rain is on the way.
Ominous.
And Tina asks, how are you doing? I assume that means medically.
Oh, yeah, I had a very mild bout of COVID. My symptoms disappeared in a few days. I went through the whole 5 days of Paxlovid, and I seem fine as far as I can tell. The last time I tested, I was still positive, but I don't have any symptoms. So I'm staying masked and keeping my distance from other people.
There's an aftertaste with Paxlovid, isn't there? Some kind of
Yes, there is. It disappeared after a while, but it's a very metallic taste, and it's annoying but tolerable. I read somewhere, although I didn't try it myself, I read somewhere that pineapple helps counteract the taste.
Or chocolate milk, I hear.
Well, you would say that, Steve.
No, I actually said chocolate milk and pineapple.
Wow. How about melted milk chocolate on top of pineapple in a chocolate?
That works.
Oh, man.
So are we, did I introduce you yet?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm afraid so.
It was about 30 minutes ago. That's why.
I heard framework somewhere. I assume if I hear framework, it must be Dennis.
That's true.
Framework.
Go back to framework.
Just
Yeah,
joining
the framework
the
of.
greater ganglion.
Okay. At the risk of turning it over to Keith, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I think we should take a time out and go find out what's in the redacted document.
Nothing.
A lot of black markings.
Big
A lot of black
square.
ink.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the black ink is significant if
Sure
it
it is.
shows a number of witnesses who were redacted. So here, each of these people said, and there's like whatever the number is, because I haven't seen the actual document. I'm just reading off what the Hill's writing. But there'll be a place where there will be it'll be witness evidence. So I think that's interesting to be able to say and to show that there were specific wording for fruits of the crime and that sort of thing. I think is also interesting. There's stuff here. I'm just going through it now.
I think it'll be very confusing for Donald Trump because he's not used to seeing black ink.
Well, that's a good one. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. Explain that joke.
Well, red ink and black ink in accounting.
Oh.
Ooh.
Now, you guys are just kidding me, right? You got that joke. already.
Paragraph 77.
I am
Based upon this investigation, I believe that the storage room, F. POTUS's residential suite, Pine Hall, the 45 office, and other spaces within the premises are not currently authorized locations for the storage of classified information or NDI.
Oh my God, that has to be true.
Is this where the breaking news comes in on?
Yeah.
Breaking. We have breaking news. We have
All right,
breaking
so,
news today.
Breaking news. Cars.
All right,
flying-
paragraph 79. Based on the foregoing facts and circumstances, I submit that probable cause exists to believe that evidence, contraband, fruits of crime, or other items illegally possessed in violation of, and it lists the statutes, will be found at the premises. Furthermore, I submit that this affidavit supports probable cause for a warrant to search the premises described in attachment A and seize the items described in attachment B.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. This is a pretty significantly standard request by a group to go in and ask for a search warrant. They got it based on the documents that they delivered to the judge. The judge determined that what they were saying was worth investigating, and the investigation ended up being a law-abiding. Wasn't a raid. It was a search, and it was with a warrant. And I'm just like, I think that's a tricky slope to try and wiggle out of, don't you?
And they made an appointment, which means that if there was any contraband, he would have had plenty of time to make it disappear before they arrived.
Yeah. They gave him an hour, but apparently there were enough boxes. And there was video of showing a movement of boxes after the first grouping of boxes was taken away. So I think they had, the judge wouldn't have done it if he didn't have probable cause. Now, is this document and all the conversations that are going to happen after the release now forward, is that going to make any difference or change any minds? I doubt it.
Well, changing minds and making a difference are two very different things.
Yeah, I think we already see a difference. Immediately after the FBI showed up, there was a flurry of statements in support of Trump coming from the Republican electeds, and they're pretty quiet lately.
Yeah. Will this make them quieter?
It's not going to make any difference to the people who are unconvincible, or but it will provide material evidence of a crime. And if that is true, then there's only one way that the Justice Department can go. It's like the end of the OJ case. If the gloves do not fit, you must acquit. Well, you know what? These gloves fit.
Okay, so is there going to be an indictment based on what's happened or not?
We don't know.
Sounds like a poll. That's a poll.
No, somebody has to go and read the docs and decide if there's a case.
Well, I think you don't have to read very far if there's stamped compartmentalized information or top secret or anything like that. It's kind of an open and shut case.
I don't agree with that. I mean,
that's what Trump's lawyers would like to hear you say.
There has to be a purpose as well. I mean, obviously, he can be charged in a minor way there, yes, but the bigger picture is there some kind of larger narrative here that he was part of, that these documents form part of? If
he's selling them to Putin.
Well, you know, the irony is this one of these crimes was a misdemeanor, but because of Hillary's emails, Trump insisted on raising it to a felony with a 5-year prison term. So even if you take the minor crime, it's more major than it was before Trump did. There's a wonderful hoist by his own petard element in this.
Oh, and I think that I can't think of a better petard to hoist.
Okay, are we done with this topic now?
You know, yeah, we better be, because if I say what I'm thinking, then we'll be here for the next half an hour. But I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I've got nothing good to say about Trump, but I actually sometimes hate the opponents of Trump more than I hate Trump, because the opponents of Trump seem to be unable to look forward and, you know, kind of ignore this side issue, and are so obsessed with him that they're giving him airspace that he wouldn't have unless he was focused on. So I haven't really, I don't think it's smart to talk about Trump or to think about or to make him central.
I think you're absolutely right. I don't think that anyone will change because it's an absolutely right way to go. Keith, I agree with you 100%. The only way to tamp out a fire is to bang on it until it goes out. You know, or in the media, it's to ignore it until it goes away. But nobody's going to do that.
And blow on it till it flares up again.
Well, that's what's going on. There's a lot of that going on right now, and that's a real shame. And I'm sort of depressed by that. And there you go.
Well, I mean, I'm not happy that Trump is still sucking up so much oxygen in the media space and the conversation. You remember right after he lost, we started talking about whether he would fade away. None of us thought that he would be such a prominent news item this late in the game.
I don't know what you mean.
Sorry, go ahead.
You know, we used to talk about the incredible shrinking Trump and how he was going to lose his influence and lose his impact, and that just hasn't happened. If anything, he looms even larger.
Well, okay.
It's insanity, I tell you. You know, and correct me though, Keith, if I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but because I'm so inundated with watching American media here in the UK. But if I wasn't watching American media here in the UK, I am obviously not obsessed with this topic the way we are, or the way the American media is, because simply not getting played. Every once in a while, there's one story, but to me seems excessive. So it's interesting. I'm not pointing out that politically, or why would the Brits care about America and its internal struggles with a former executive. I get that. The point, I guess, is that that if it's not there, you don't think about it. So I actually have these two hats, so I can wear I'm watching the media here in the UK, and it's not a big deal. It's who is this?
It's a big deal here, but that said, to me, the most important political news of the last 2 weeks was the opinion polls that showed the extent to which the general public hold both parties in disrespect. Not just parties, but all the institutions as well. But the Democrats and the Republicans in that poll were around 30% or less. Most people's opinion is that politicians suck, no matter which party they're in.
Which poll is that?
It was on an NBC poll 2 weeks ago that was highlighted on Morning Joe and most of MSNBC. So unlike other polls, it focused on attitude to all of them. And, only about 30% of Americans have any positive opinion about any politician.
So that would mean that certainly plays into the hands of the politicians who are in favor of some type of congressional bill that will make abortions legal. That's a political move that's also a popular one, and I think that sort of fits down that road.
Well, it also explains, if you really think about Obama and Trump, they were the anti-politics presidents. They both ran as opponents of DC. And it seems like being against DC is the winning position, because most people don't hold DC in high regard, or the Supreme Court, or the Senate, the House. They're all held in very low esteem.
Yeah.
I just like this to burn itself out.
What would you like to talk about?
I don't want to talk about it, and I have the sound turned off.
No, I can hear you, Steve.
Well, Manchester United beat Liverpool 2-1 this week.
Oh my God, didn't they?
I think Steve wants to talk about that even less.
Right.
No, I
Right,
don't want
then.
to talk about any of this.
What do you
guys
want to
are-
talk about, Steve? It's your show. What do
It's
you want
not
to talk
my
about?
show. It's the gang. That's what it says. So
But what do you want to gang up on?
I got one. I
don't
have a
wanna
good one to
gang
gang
up
up.
on
Here,
anything.
did you hear that that Trump is like $1.6 million in debt to the company that's hosting his Truth Social platform?
Yes, I
wonder
heard
if he'll
that,
ever-
and I also heard he didn't get a trademark for Truth Social.
Oh, excellent! And the logo
It was
looks like
ruled
some-
too generic.
And the logo apparently is directly related to some logo of some other company I saw somewhere, but I could be wrong. It's one big mess.
Well, if he had theme music, it would probably be by Neil Young too, because he steals Neil Young's music on occasion.
Well, the two most interesting things that I read this week are, firstly, Benedict Evans, who I think is known to most of us, wrote a very interesting piece called "Netflix is Not a Tech Company," but it was pro Netflix, and it focused on live sports and streaming. And I thought it was kind of interesting. And then Jean-Louis Gasset, who was at one time very senior at Apple, wrote a very good piece called Software and Money, which was all about Apple and cars, and talked about CarPlay as the hidden software backdoor into the car industry. And they both got a lot of attention from me.
Yes,
Then-
Gassé has periodically been trying to evaluate from a distance and from his knowledge and experience what Apple is doing in the field of cars, and trying to figure out if there are margins for Apple supporting a car move. And he's usually been very skeptical of it, but he seems to be warming up to it lately.
Well, the article catalogs successive failures, but puts it in the context of Apple's really good at being patient and saying no until it gets to yes. And funnily enough, I saw an interview with Scott Forstall. It was an old interview from 5 years ago about how many efforts it took to get to the iPhone, and how that happened. It came through a very circuitous route. And so Gassé's framing is Apple is going to do a car, but not until it can revolutionize, basically until it can build a car with no steering wheel and no pedals, it's not going to build a car. And between now and then, it's going to do software for cars and learn how to complete the software to the point where their car looks like an iPhone compared to all other electric cars looking like a BlackBerry.
He also pointed out that Apple has been spending $1 billion a year on this research. It's not a small investment on their part, and even though there's no revenue attached to it, they are very happy to spend $1 billion a year further developing their car software.
Right.
I would argue that it is a small investment on their part. They make 83 billion a quarter. $1 billion. That's like digging in your pocket, me pulling out lint, them pulling out $1 billion.
It's like Brent saying, "I'll buy lunch."
By the way, that reminds me, I owe the gang a correction. Last week when we talked about 350 million being given to Adam Newman, somebody asked how big a loss that would be if they lost it, and I said that Andreessen managed about 10 billion. The truth is they managed 35 billion. So it's
That's like
1%.
Oh,
yeah, it's tiny, I guess.
Yeah.
That's so that Apple story is, the difference between Apple being a tech company and Netflix being a media company.
Yeah. Well, Benedict makes the point that Netflix is using money to create audience by spending on excellent content in large quantities that are impossible to unsubscribe from, because there's something new pretty much every month that you want to engage with. And he compares it to Sky, Rupert Murdoch's Sky back in the day, that bought the rights to the English Premier League because and took it off of broadcast TV. So if you wanted to watch English Premier League, you had to buy a satellite dish. There was no other way. And everyone bought a satellite dish. Everyone, literally every house had a satellite dish. And broadcast TV in the UK was never the same ever again, to this very day. And now you see this week Paramount bought the streaming rights to the soccer, Champions League soccer from Europe for the next 8 years for, I think it was 2-point-something billion. Or is that the NBC price that they're paying for the Premier League? Anyway, huge amounts of money going into sports live streaming now. And he makes the point that Netflix isn't doing live streaming, and it doesn't have to, because its drama and comedy, etc. content is so overwhelming and so good that its audience isn't going to go away. And he predicts, a kind of a very positive future for Netflix, which is interesting because only a month ago everyone was predicting Netflix had peaked.
I don't know if I'm buying that. I think great content is all. You can almost look at every one of these streaming networks and you can find some really great stuff. Is it the greatness of the content, or is it the ability to present it in a way that will keep you coming back, that becomes even more important than the content itself?
It's the greatness of the content.
And
Really?
the cadence. It's like Disney and Paramount and Peacock have good content, but it's like one thing at a time, sometimes two things at a time. In Netflix, it's like 10 or 12 things at a time.
Yeah, but see, then again, you can't take in 10 or 12 things at a time. That's like
Yeah, but-
you go to an all you can eat buffet and you try, oh, this is some great looking stuff, and you try to eat it all and you make yourself sick.
You can set it, you can set it aside and then, you know, forget about it like I do. What was that show? I know I probably,
I
I
think
saved it.
we're
I
getting to
probably
the point
saved
where-
it somewhere.
You
Are
have to
are we to
think
the
in
point-
terms of, you can't think in terms of you as an individual. You have to think in terms of a segmented audience. 12 things at a time covers a lot of people.
I guess that's true, but even it covers a lot of people, but it just feels like the one thing that people don't have any extra of, and they'll never have any extra of, is even more so than time, is their attention. And I don't know, has Netflix figured out how to maximize our attention? Or is it just, you know, throwing all this stuff at us, hoping that, you know, some of this stuff will stick? I don't know. It's a real tough thing, because I think they're all going to have to try to figure out how much is enough, or how to present it, how to time it. I liked it when you could binge this stuff, but if you allow people to binge, then you allow them to do like I do, which is I'll watch it and pay for a month, and then I'll see it in about 3 months, where I don't have to pay you $10.99 a month. I'll come back because there's something else from another vendor, so I can kind of stretch out my money and my content consumption.
You know,
Just
it's interesting that you say that, because each of those systems tends not to do a lot of external marketing. So what that kind of means, you need to watch the streamer in order to know what's on the streamer, unless their marketing department has picked something to go after, like Reacher, or Star Trek Discovery, something very specific that they actually go after and market clearly and plainly. And you go, oh yeah, that's one I got to see. And people start talking about it.
Well, it's clear
so
they do a lot of earned media in terms of marketing. A lot of it has to do with PR and trying to create buzz for the properties.
Yeah, and they determine they'll have a priority list of what are the things they need to pop. She-Hulk, whatever it is, something that, you know, oh, that's what I want to watch. Or do like I do and set it aside and then completely forget about it and go, what the hell was that thing I was supposed to
But do we have a clear image of how people find these things? Do people go to the portal first and say, I wonder what's on Netflix, I wonder what's on Paramount Plus or Peacock or any of the others? Or do they go in search of a title and say,
I don't know.
who has this?
Or an actor, or any number of things, which is, by the way, what the whole voice text search thing is trying to accomplish. That is, that anything you ask it that might be tangential to what it is you're looking for, it'll offer you that as an option in what you're looking for. I'm sure that's a study that's been done, Michael. I just have never seen it.
It
Well,
depends.
sure. I mean, that's always been one of the issues in marketing entertainment. You know, where is the brand? Is the brand the director, the star, the studio, or your local theater? Where do you go first? And to some extent, you know, the grail of the ask for anything and have it show up sounds really good from the point of view of the viewer, but it must drive the marketers crazy. They would much rather have you in their environment and show you their wares and not have you just randomly asking for anything.
Hey, Michael, when Tina turns her camera on, it's a hint that we all should pause, listen to what she has to say.
That hint is always available.
What I wish for finding things is, I wish that the choices were tied into my social graph, so that I could find out what my friends are watching, because I really do trust their opinions, most of them, on what they're finding interesting. And because I can't really do that, I have to go to the social media and say, hey, Frank, what is it that you're streaming right now that you got excited about? Or I text Keith and say, hey, what's that show? But I wish there was another way to do that. That was, easy.
Did you like Pieces of Her?
Yeah, we saw it about 2 years ago.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I'm getting into watching BBC iPlayer. What's that? I'm watching the BBC iPlayer a lot, Keith, just because there's some really great shows that the BBC has done that are buried in that thing that unless you sort of scooch around, you'll see, wow, that looks like an interesting one. And they tend to be procedurals and police and action oriented. Excellent.
Yeah, no, they're good. Yeah. Yeah, I have BBC iPlayer here in Palo Alto through my VPN, and it's very good. The other one that's good is Channel 4 in the UK as a lot.
Yeah, and they have great stuff. They really do.
Yeah,
they do.
I'm kind of fascinated to see how this Lord of the Rings rollout for Amazon is gonna work for them. I think, what is it? They put $1 billion into this. Speaking of $1 billion, and it was already a huge franchise before. What is success going to be if they've already put $1 billion into this thing? I mean, is it just sheer views? Is it viewing minutes? I mean, you have like Netflix with that. What was that thing from Korea that came out of nowhere?
Squid Game.
Yeah.
Squid Game.
If it doesn't match that, is it going to be considered a failure? Because there was absolutely no build up for that, and it went crazy. Whereas everybody's looking for this thing on Amazon because, hey, look, I'm a big Lord of the Rings. I don't know if I ever said that publicly.
Yeah, you did. You just did. You know what, though? You're absolutely right. I think but I think that at least on opening night, they will achieve what they expect to achieve. It will be totally up to the content and how it goes from show to show.
Brent's about to get
the Amazon model is hard for me to grok because they don't market their streaming service as a product. It's part of Amazon Prime, so it's one of the things that makes Amazon Prime attractive. But the beginning of Amazon Prime was free shipping, and now they've added a whole bunch of things to it. So are they expecting to sign up more people for Prime as a result of this show? Is that how they'll measure it?
Or just to keep the ones they have re-upping? That would be good enough since they have over 200 million subscribers.
I don't think them getting more subscribers is their end game at this point. I think that their end game at this point is to get the buzz.
I think their end game is
but what does the buzz? What does the buzz get them? The buzz gets them more subscribers, doesn't it? Or retention, as Brent said.
It's funny. I think that the streamers actually can do something that old-fashioned marketers can't do, and that is that they can measure because we couldn't. We had to have companies to measure for us. They can measure action and activity immediately, and I think that they want to be able to market sales on that buzz. I'm not sure that sales always just means more subscribers. Sales could also mean partners and other types of business ventures that attach to that metric. But I'm saying I think that that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, maybe we'll find a whole category on the Amazon shopping network of merchandise from Lord of the Rings. Maybe they'll be selling swords and daggers and
they
armor.
Will. There's no doubt about it that they will. They will then create games that you can then go on and play for money, and they'll do all sorts of stuff with the franchise if the show hits. Which, by the way, even in the streaming world, it's exactly the same in the music world and the film world. It's all hit based.
Well, sure. I mean, but go back to Disney and Mickey Mouse, or go back to Charlie Chaplin. Part of their revenue stream was merchandise from the beginning, from the silent films to the early talkies. Shirley Temple. This is not new stuff. And then Star Wars just broke it wide open.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the advertising tangent in that a client can buy an ad or a product placement or some kind of inserted content. Those are the kinds of things that they sell on.
Happy Meals.
Well, interesting enough, I think there's like two things going on the internet. One is what you could think of as centralized hubs that try to serve multiple purposes and build a large audience that they can monetize. And Amazon is one of those. I think Netflix is a poor one of those. It's got less arrows in its whatever you put arrows
Quiver,
Quiver.
quiver.
Google is kind of weakening as one of those. So if you ask, well, who's a centralized hub? It's really Apple, Amazon. And after that, you struggle for another one that's got.
Oh, I think you left one out that you watch a lot. It's part of Google, YouTube.
I think YouTube TV theoretically could become one of those. It's starting
Well, YouTube TV, but also just in general, YouTube
general,
is a portal that people go to, and that's a huge part of Google.
Yeah, but they're less evolved in terms of, the most evolved by far is Amazon. Evolved as in the number of different things, and they fund it all through AWS, so they don't even have to make a profit. So it's kind of interesting. Now, the second trend is the opposite trend, which is the stuff like what we're doing, which is the spread of the decentralized, empowered edge of the internet, where everyone's doing stuff that they couldn't do before cheaply and freely or easily. And more of our time is being spent engaging with that stuff. Like, I'm finding the number of Substack things that I see now is just exploded compared to what I used to see even 6 months ago. So I think there's two things going on simultaneously, and they're very different to each other. And they coexist. They're not in competition. So it feels as if attention is decentralizing. If you're looking for any kind of a trend.
Hasn't that been the case for a while? Before, I mean, we used to have to only choose between 3 channels. That was a long time ago. Now it's, it's all over the place. I think that's been like a trend. Maybe it's accelerated over the last couple of years, but that's definitely been a trend that's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
I think there's an oscillation of decentralization, and people try and corral it and centralize it again. So you have platforms trying to round up as much attention as possible, and then you have breakaway provinces over on the edge creating new hubs. Substack is one of those.
Right.
I think it's our brain. I think as we started out talking about there's great content all over the place, I think it just makes it harder for us to try to deal with all that. And so, while 3 channels seems very restrictive, now, back in the day, it didn't feel that bad because you had enough good content coming out at a time that we were able to actually consume it pretty easily. Now it's like, the fire hose is pointed right out our face, and you can't consume all this stuff. And so it feels like sometimes having good funnels that, allow you to consume at a rate that makes sense for you is getting to be as important as having all this great content to choose from to begin with.
If you want to look back to the time of 3 channels, it's not as though that was the universe of media at the time. Radio was a lot bigger then. Magazines were a lot bigger then. People had tremendous choice, even when they only had 3 networks. Lots of times people would be listening to the radio in their car, in their bedroom, away from the TV in the living room. If you were in the kitchen, you may not have a TV in the kitchen, you'd be listening to the radio. All that stuff was going on, and we always had multiple choices. We even had books. People would go to the library. So there wasn't a monopoly on 3 channels.
Monopoly.
I'm a little worried about Dennis because he's so quiet today. Dennis?
Yeah, I'm here. Honestly, I don't know how you guys find the time to watch so much TV.
Oh, see, I don't watch TV. I just I'm a
Or
meta
stream
TV
it or
watcher. I
whatever
read
you-
about TV.
I really, yeah. You read about? Okay, that's interesting.
I have a
Well,
watch.
hey, Listen,
I have,
just
a
read.
I have a wife that immediately after dinner, she says, okay, now it's our time. And there's stuff we binge watch together. And it's like, we wouldn't really have a relationship if it wasn't for binge watching.
Ah, yeah. I think we're married to the same woman.
I'm kind of with Michael, although I think I watch too much stuff. I consume so much content, written content about the industry that, from all quarters of the industry. And I freak out if I miss one. That's why I start working on my thing at like 6 o'clock in the morning, my time, and finish working on it by 8. And then the whole 24-hour period before that is gathering those written documents, those things. But I admit I watch way too much visual content.
No, but
And
Frank, you just said something really interesting, I think is a part of what's going on. You spend a lot of time consuming, but then you also spend a lot of time taking what you consume and kind of reconfiguring it to create your own creation through a newsletter. And I think the relationship that we have with content today is way different than, like, when Dennis said you guys watch a lot of TV, I started thinking, you know what? I don't watch a lot of the stuff that traditionally would have been considered TV. I don't watch hardly anything on networks. I go to YouTube and I get fed, and this is kind of scary because I know they do the same with TikTok. You go there and you may look for, I'll look for information on a new camera. So you put in a search, it brings back all this information. You click on one, you watch it. And then there's this, the other side is the recommendations. And if based on how much you watch that, they're basically trying to feed you based on what your current consumption interest is. And so you end up going down this rabbit hole that has nothing completely to do with Breaking Bad or the Marvel comic series. It is completely around what you are into. And for me, the goal is not just to watch, it's to watch, consume, and then do something kind of constructive with it. And I think that's the difference in the terms of relationship we have with content today than when we were back with the 3 channels watching All in the Family. I mean, hey, I like Archie, there's some funny stuff, but after you laugh, what do you have? With this stuff, you're able to actually take their content and reconfigure it into something that is, of interest to you and potentially whoever else may be in your audience, which I think this is the real interesting part of what's going on today.
No, you're right. You're right about that. That's how I feel in the long run, anyway. But I'm also, I'm a kind of a monstrous consumer of that kind of information, and I need to be thrown video at all times during the day or night. I often find myself at 3 a.m. watching, Poirot on my phone.
You said Poirot, right?
Yes, I did.
Just want to make sure I heard that right.
That's Poirot. That's a series about Ozzy Osbourne.
Two pieces of breaking news. The first is Ethereum is down 10% today. And 2, Ford just announced that they're increasing the price of a electric Mach-E by $8,475 for the top end vehicle.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
Which car? What vehicle is that?
The Mustang Mach-E.
The Mustang.
How much is it now then? What's the total now?
It was 62,000. It's now 70 at the top end, and the lowest end one is up 3,000 from 44 to 47.
Remember when you could get a Ferrari for 70 grand?
No.
Yeah.
Yes,
So Dennis,
I do. 1975, maybe.
so Dennis, why do you, or whoever said this, why are you interested? What is the net of this price increase? What does it say to you?
Oh, to me? Well,
Oh, whoever said that.
That was Keith.
It was Keith.
No, I just broke the news. Dennis had
he
the reaction.
started it.
Yeah. And Dennis referred to it as that was old news from yesterday.
Well, no, I
So-
didn't mean it was old. I just,
Yeah, I'm not, characterizing your interest. I'm asking what your interest is.
The I think Ford may have entered the market at a slight discount. I think they may be adding more battery to some of their cars, and that could be taking up part of the price increase. But I think everybody's setting their prices to reflect what you might get back in tax deductions, and or to compare themselves favorably with Tesla. I think everybody's bunching up in the high 50s, low 60s for many of their cars.
Is
And
that why you were interested in it, Keith?
I'm interested because this is the 2023 model that they're going to open orders next Tuesday, the day before Apple does its next big event for the new iPhone. And I've got a Mach-E. I've just had the experience of selling my Kia EV6 for the same price I paid for it after driving it 5,000 miles. So I'm interested in getting this 2023 Mach-E, and now I'm thinking I can probably sell my current one for more than I paid for it.
I think you can, yeah, especially if there's a long delay in delivery. What you're basically doing is selling at the same price, but with immediate delivery, which to many people is attractive.
Yeah.
Helping.
But the Ethereum deduction of 10% is the big news, but you've got to be kind of an insider to know why it's big news, because Ethereum has rebuilt its platform to move away from power generating mining towards what's called proof of work, and proof of stake. And proof of stake doesn't use energy, but it has totally different economic incentives.
I'm sorry, are you saying stake with a K or states as in stateliness?
Stake with a K.
Okay.
So basically, the way it used to work is you used to mine Ethereum. Now the way it's going to work is you stake Ethereum and you earn a profit because you're staking. And so the new Ethereum go to you, the staker, but there's no mining involved, therefore no electricity involved. And,
so what does it take to stake? What does staking mean?
There's a minimum amount. I can't remember what it is, to be honest, but there's a minimum amount you have to stake. It's north of $100,000. So but it's not huge, but it's quite big. And that puts you into this position of being a validator, if you like. Anyway, it gets rid of the power suck that is represented by mining. And they're merging the old Ethereum with the new Ethereum sometime in the next week or 2 weeks. And the Ethereum has gone up in anticipation of this, but now it's gone down significantly. So that's like a major, kind of unexpected event. So there's something behind it. I don't know what it is.
But
Are there hypotheses about why it's gone down?
I've only just noticed it's gone down, so I haven't had time to go and investigate. So I don't know.
The proof of a stake sounds like it says that it's not worth it to you if you don't use the cryptocurrency as your means of buying and selling stuff.
I think that's true. The latest, I'm forming partnerships with a couple of startups in the crypto space, and they both kind of a crossover here. One is called JobChain. What JobChain does is it lets you can get paid your salary in crypto or a blend of crypto and currency into a wallet that you can spend from. And it's kind of a hybrid where people can choose to get paid in crypto. And the other one's called REX protocol, real estate exchange is the long version. REX protocol, which is using tokens for your house. So I can create a Keith token for my house, and then people can buy some of my tokens, and then they by proxy they own part of my house. And if my house sells, they get paid their share in tokens. And REX protocol is going to have an overarching token over the top of all houses that's tradable. So you can exchange your house token into this Rex protocol token. And it basically has the vision of getting rid of mortgages and enabling shared ownership of real estate instead of being in debt to the mortgage company. So
Can I get some Keith coin now?
I haven't done it yet, but no. But I have a very nice house. You'd love to own a piece of it.
See, that sounds to me like the future of real estate sharing of property.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it might
unless, you know, I want my 2 weeks in January in your house though, so you're gonna have to move out.
be. Exactly, that's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, ownership sharing is not necessarily time sharing, is it?
Exactly. It isn't.
That's true.
at all. It isn't at all, actually. It's fractional ownership, but not fractional living.
So this, to me, sounds like an echo of what we were talking about when we heard about the Andreessen investment in Adam Newman. Although that's still not clear, it sounds like some part of it has to do with earning equity in a rental, probably on the blockchain somewhere.
Yeah, if the property is rental, then there's shared revenue from rental to the owners of the tokens. But if the property is lived in, then there isn't. It's just about when you sell. But what they expect to do is to create. So if you take my zip code is 94306. Basically, the idea is ultimately institutional investors like pension funds could buy fractional ownership in a zip code, which has pretty predictable growth curves over 30 years. So you end up with bond-like instruments sitting on top of residential real estate. And the fractional owners wouldn't be other individuals, it would also be institutions.
I don't know, smells like a Ponzi scheme to me.
Well, that you would say that. we'll all be dead.
Can you explain? And I know there's differences, but it sounds almost like a reverse mortgage.
A reverse mortgage, they basically are sucking you dry over about 10 years. They're owning more and more of your house. With this, you sell 10% of your house and you're done. It's only 10%. Now, if your house is worth $1 million, you get 100,000 in cash. If you're a senior and you're sitting on 100% equity, a reverse mortgage is basically stealing from you, whereas this is just giving you liquidity over a portion of your house.
And what's the motivation for doing this in the first place?
Money.
No, seriously.
No, the main motivation is to move out of debt, which is represented by mortgages, while still allowing property ownership and upside. So basically, the monthly interest you pay on a mortgage, if that could go away, everyone would have more cash in the bank to go on vacation or whatever else they want to do, or maybe extend their house or upgrade their house.
Okay, so I understand the part of this that has to do with taking cash out of my current equity in the house. Supposing I'm in the housing market and I want to buy a house. How does this work? What do I get out of it? How is it different from putting down payment and then signing papers with the bank?
Well, if you want to buy a house, the starting point is how big a pile of money have you got, which will determine how much of the house you can buy. Now, if the answer is less than 100%, you've got some options. You can go.
No, I want to buy a house to live in. I want to move.
No,
so
I know.
What do I do?
Well, I'm saying the starting point is how much money have you got and what is the house cost? Because you can't make a decision unless you know that. So let's assume you don't have 100% of the cash to go and buy the house. So you need to do some kind of financing to do it. Well, then you've got two options. Option one is go get a mortgage, borrow money somehow. Your down payment is your bit. The mortgage is the rest.
Right.
These guys offer an alternative, which is instead of getting a mortgage and paying interest, just have a co-owner who is a passive, silent co-owner who'll give you the bit you don't have in return for partial ownership. And they're just there in the background. And when you sell the house, they get their share of the upside.
Yeah, but that's the problem. It sounds like for the person with the money, what they're buying into is basically a stranded asset. If you stay in the house for 35 years, yeah, eventually they'll make some money, but
No, there's a secondary market that sits on top of this, allowing like a share exchange, like the Nasdaq, so they can sell their share in your house anytime they want to someone else. From your point of view, you won't really know who owns your house. You'll just know that you don't own 20% of it, for example.
oh, that's just like a mortgage. You never know who
No, there's no interest. There's no interest.
Yeah, but they buy and sell mortgages.
Well,
No.
they do, but as a mortgage holder, you still have to pay a payment every month.
Right, you got to pay
Part of that
something.
payment goes to principal, part of that payment goes to interest. In this case, if I understand this correctly, if I can put 10% down on a house, I put that money in, someone else puts up the 90%,
Yeah.
I get to live in the house.
Yeah.
They don't do anything except wait for me to sell it, or they can trade their 90% if the valuation of my house goes up. If I bought a $200,000 house and now it's $1 million house, they can sell what they've profited on.
You've got it. That's exactly what it is. And I actually invested in a company in the UK doing this for millennials who only had 5% down payment. And the millennial is the owner of record in the land registry. The co-owner is represented as a lien on the house, and the actual owner who only put down 5% makes all the decisions and has all the rights, and doesn't have a mortgage. And by the way, they can choose to pay a fee to the 90%, 95% owner in order to grow their ownership over time above the 5% if they want.
Let me ask you, what is the risk that you're taking on by doing this as opposed to a more traditional financing?
The main risk is on the side of the co-owner. The value of the property may go down. So these co-owners tend to be very long-term investors looking at, not flippers, but looking at, apart from in the rental segment, that's a bit different. But for the most part, they're the same people that would buy bonds, looking at yield over the long term.
Yeah, but what's the risk to the buyer?
There is no risk. It's all upside. They own the property. It's theirs. There's no foreclosure concept.
Oh, but wait, hold on. Suppose the house needs a roof. Who pays for the roof?
The owner is the same as always. The owner pays everything.
And how is it capitalized? Does the owner suddenly go from 10% to 11% ownership?
Nope. It's a personal choice. There's a fixed split on the ownership. If you put money in, your passive co-owner is not a decision maker. They become a beneficiary. Part of their reason for doing it, by the way, is to benefit from the increase in the price of the house over time. So if you, the owner, choose to improve it, they'll benefit. If you choose it to go to ruin, the opposite will happen. But the thing about the instrument is it doesn't impose any obligations on the owner from the passive co-owner.
And if I'm a 10% owner of a home, am I paying 100% of the homeowner's insurance?
Everything. You're the owner. The other people are not owners. They basically are stakeholders through a token in the future upside, but they're not owners of the property.
So the owner who lives there is responsible for real estate taxes,
Everything.
homeowners insurance,
Everything.
maintenance, upkeep,
Yeah.
and any improvements they choose to make in terms of remodeling the kitchen and the bathroom and whatever else people remodel.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as it would be under a mortgage from that point of view.
Then why are they doing it?
Because it's very hard to find investment vehicles like residential property that has predictable growth over the long term. It's better than a government bond in that sense.
Well, I mean, if you have the money to put down on a house and you don't have to pay a monthly mortgage payment, that sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, except you still haven't answered the question, which is what is the risk that you're taking on to go this route? There
I
has to
don't.
be risk. I mean, we see Ethereum drop by 10
Oh,
billion.
I see. Well, there's always risk in assets, but the nice thing about a house, if you think about
I'm
it,
not asking about the nice thing. I'm asking.
the risk is all about the house. It's not about the token, because the token is passive. It doesn't have any value other than the value of the house. So if house prices go down, the token will go down. If house prices go up, the token will go up. The token doesn't have any independent existence separate from the house.
Then why are you doing it?
Because you want to get rid of mortgage interest.
So you're getting rid of mortgage interest and you're taking on what?
As the homeowner, you're taking on extra cash in the bank and no difference otherwise.
Now, this is the nice part again. I'm not asking.
There is no downside, Steve.
So there's this thing floating out there in space that you can just go, oh, I'll have some of that. And there's no risk associated with it.
No, if I have $1 billion to invest and I can come to each of you and you'll sell me 10% of your house forever, and I do the research and I think you're in a good zip code and your house is going to appreciate by 100% over 10 years, it's a good investment for me and it's good for you. There's no real loser here. The loser is the mortgage company.
Doesn't somebody have to make some kind of a monthly payment of some type? Doesn't the owner? I mean, it's like I'm not walking into my house and getting $100,000 and not paying something every month. I don't get it.
Because you've given up whatever percentage of your house $100,000 represents. So you don't own that percent of your house anymore. So that's your.
I mean, you will be paying insurance and real estate taxes, and whatever utility bills and the gardener if you have a garden.
But the investor is only realizing gains if I sell the house. What if I'm holding on to the house for?
No, I think I heard that. I think I heard there's a secondary market. So if I have 10% of your house, I could sell my 10% to someone else if your house has appreciated. If I look on Zillow and I see that this house has now an increased valuation, maybe I'll sell my share to someone else who wants to buy it.
Right. I'm thinking about, generational homes. I mean, sometimes people don't sell them for generations and then no, but that makes some sense that
no, it doesn't matter. You have let's imagine there's a pie chart of your house and it's divided in two, the bit you own and the bit you don't. Now that pie chart exists in a mortgage as well. So if most young people, they only own 20% of their house or less, and the 80% is owned by the mortgage company until they pay it off. So this is the same. There'll be a pie chart of your house. Somebody will own a piece. Now, once it's tokenized, both your bit of the pie chart and theirs has a representation in tokens. They can buy and sell their tokens. By the way, so can you. You could say, I own 80% of my house. I want some cash. I'm going to take it down to 70%. And you release some of your tokens for sale on this secondary exchange. So you can have by the way, you can also go and buy them back at whatever the current asset.
I guess one of the issues is how liquid is this exchange? In the stock market, I can just call up and buy shares and sell shares instantly. Is this going to be as fluid as that?
That's the big question. Obviously, it's a startup. So the answer today is the exchange isn't live yet. So the answer is no. So then the question is, how attractive would residential real estate be to sovereign wealth funds and endowments and pensions and so on?
Yeah, now we're getting into that thing called risk.
Well, risk only happens if the transaction happens. And if a transaction happens, then it's liquid, right? Because you just got some cash.
If the transaction happens, that's the question. Is
And you wouldn't give up your mortgage.
in some. I mean, right now, for instance, in the housing market, you put up a house for sale. In some markets, it will sell in 10 days. In some markets, it will be on the market for 6 months, because depending on a range of variable factors, the housing market is more or less liquid. So you can see, if you look at listings, they'll tell you how long that house has been on the market. In a very hot market, the houses sell almost instantly as soon as they're listed. In a cool market, they just sit there and the owner is stuck.
No, I mean, clearly, whenever there's a startup, you have to imagine why it might be successful or not. And so the real question at the root of all this isn't really to do with the tokens. It's to do with, is residential real estate an investable asset class?
Sure. I can answer that.
Okay, well, you have about 5 minutes to answer that.
That's all. That was it. That was the answer.
Okay, Dennis, anything you want to add to this because you have to jump soon?
I'm reading a book about the financialization of our society and our economy, and it strikes me that this is a great example of over financialization. I'm not sure it's a good idea, but there it is. Kind of reminds me of all the shenanigans that went around that were going on in the banking industry with CDOs and whatever else there were during the financial crisis in 2008. And except now we're using tokens and a different marketplace. Keith, I want to believe that you say it doesn't have a downside, but the skeptic in me can't abide that.
Well, of course it has a downside, but it is 100% tied to residential real estate's downside.
Yeah, but the downside of residential real estate is you sleep on the street. That's something to be avoided.
And I think foreclosure there is the big enemy. Like in the world of mortgages, there's a concept of foreclosure, as we saw in 2008. In this world, there is no concept of foreclosure. The co-owner buys, they're on the hook. They can't do anything to you or ask you to do anything, but a mortgage company can.
Oh,
Well, there's still in real estate taxes, there's foreclosure.
What if the original buyer of 10 who owns 10% actually borrows the money to buy that 10% and then uses the collateral in the house as collateral for the loan and then fails to pay off the loan?
Yeah, that's why it has to all be tied into the land registry so that can't happen. The land registry still plays a role in this. They see every transaction in terms of who owns who is the actual owner of this property value, not
What is the land registry? Is that a government organization?
Yeah. There's lots of them. I think they're for profit, but Dennis might know or Michael might know. But
well, it's state to state. In my state, they are county. They're run by the counties, and I've been deep into them because I tried to computerize the documents at one point in time 30 years ago. In Massachusetts, you can look at documents that go back 300 years, handwritten. So in other states, they're already commercialized.
It's the official book that says what the financial status is of a property, who owns it, are there any liens on it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like who's who for real estate.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm doing some time management here. Brent, you said in the chat that you have to jump as well, correct?
Well, I don't have to jump. I just have to leave.
So
You have to go through that Prince magazine.
right. So now we got 30 seconds less of Brent saying anything. Is there anything you want to say?
Do any of you guys do you consider yourselves to be avid podcast listeners at all?
Did you say
No.
average or avid?
Well, yeah, avid,
Yeah, I do listen to podcasts. I don't know where I stand in the rankings.
uh,
I'm
I'm
listening to
pretty
this
sure I'm
one.
below average.
but you listen to maybe a little.
I'm
Yeah.
way below average.
Okay.
I'm below average.
Uh,
I
Steve,
listen to a couple, but I'm below average.
I know Steve doesn't listen. Tina, do you?
Why are you asking?
Not much, no.
I'm just curious because it
I-
feels like we hit a plateau with podcasts.
Yeah, but
Twitter-
did
Yeah,
somebody
about
just-
20 years ago we did.
somebody just made a big one of the big
Amazon,
companies
I think. I think
Twitter
Amazon
just-
made a move in podcasts.
today.
Twitter just announced that Spaces is going to have a podcast tab.
That's it. Yeah, that's the one. That's
and
the-
yet it feels like it's. Why are they doing this now? It just feels like it's a little late. It
They're
feels-
moving away. Well, they're all moving away from. It's interesting. The Clubhouse model, independently of Clubhouse itself, I thought was super promising. And podcast is to me way less interesting than the Clubhouse model. But they're moving toward podcasting, I think, because it's cheaper and more scalable.
I disagree. I think they're absorbing podcasting into the live audio model.
Maybe
the high end podcasts that have been sound designed and have actors portraying things. I mean, it's funny. They we've had this conversation. They harken back to the old radio shows of the 1930s and 40s that create an atmosphere. They're entertaining. They're actually something people go to. And now Audible is putting out different series of podcasts. It's funny. They all feel to me like when the Murders in the Building comedy it's so good. You guys have to watch it.
when somebody says they're launching a new podcast, does that do anything for you at this point? I mean, do you care?
No,
Brent, I'm guessing from the tone of your question that you don't.
No, but I'm getting ready to launch my new
Yeah, exactly.
well, then we have to. You can guilt us into
No,
it.
it just feels like, maybe this is a topic for another episode, but it just feels like, all this effort is, they're doing all this stuff, and it feels like it's been watered down to the point where, who cares at this point? I mean,
Let me back out a little bit. Video killed the radio star. There is a category of entertainment that's screen oriented, whether it's sitting in a movie theater or in your living room with a TV or looking at your phone. And there's a category that's audio only, whether you're listening through a loudspeaker in your room or over headphones. And there are lots of reasons and lots of circumstances where audio input is preferable to video input. If you're working, if you're moving, if you're doing yard work, if you're doing housework, or if you just want to sit quietly in the dark, there's a lot of appeal to an audio only environment. Now, how you fill that up, whether it's with live conversations, whether it's with produced dramas, or whether it's any other format, that's a question of how you develop the content. But I think there's always going to be a market for people who just want to listen without watching.
I've got a specific suggestion. This is for you mainly, Michael, but it could work for Brent as well. So when you do your Substack, and by the way, I love your Substack, Michael. I think I didn't realize what a good writer you are. It's very.
Oh, thank you.
It's very readable. What you got to do is use the Substack audio thing to speak your editorial, and you embed it. For Brent, you can upload the video of your LinkedIn show, and it will take the audio and create an audio podcast inside Substack. And so you can basically get a podcast by using your existing content, using the Substack tools to create it. What I then do, apart from embedding the audio, I also then upload the audio to Anchor, and it sends it to Spotify, iTunes as a podcast.
So wait a minute, Keith, does that not mean that we could take the Substack feed of the Gillmor gang and make the podcast out of it and feed it out there to all of those places?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So
Fancy
basically,
that.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do it because I don't care about podcasts.
Well, if anybody cares a little about podcasts, I'll recommend one. Kara Swisher's podcast for the month of August has been without Scott Galloway, and she's had a wonderful series of guests.
Cool.
The most recent was Molly Wood, and Molly Wood has moved from journalism to VC, and she's specifically investing in environmental companies, and they have a fascinating discussions. You can look for the Pivot podcast with Kara Swisher and Molly Wood. I think, Dennis, you might appreciate this one.
Do they make a transcript available?
I don't know.
I have to jump, guys. I've got a work call happening right now.
I gotta go
Have
too.
a good week.
Okay,
Bye,
thanks, Keith.
Bye, Brent.
Bye, Brent.
Bye, Brent. Bye, Keith. I'm leaving too. I'm tired.
Bye, Frank.
Chow mein.
Let's say goodbye first.
No, we
Mm,
it's too late.
This is like Haydn's Farewell Symphony.
Everybody says goodbye. That's goodbye.
All right. let's
Okay,
go.
so Frank,
Yeah,
see you later. Thank you.
Chow mein.
See you, Frank.
Okay, Dennis,
Dennis,
are
what?
you in for the duration?
Well, are you ending it?
I'm not ending it. Everybody else is ending it.
Well, I'm out as well. It's good to see you all.
Likewise. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
showing up.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Well, I'm here for the sweet or bitter end, however it turns out.
Okay. Well, what's up? What do you want to talk about?
Dark Brandon.
What you mean? The strut?
Are you familiar with Dark Brandon?
Yeah, it's sort of.
Yeah.
It's right up there with podcasts for me, but it's basically Biden swagger.
It's Biden. Yes, it's Biden swagger. It's a meme celebrating Biden swagger. And there seems to be a good deal of it going on now. Just, the whole atmosphere around politics has had a sea change over the last 2 weeks. And there are a lot of factors leading into it. I think the biggest one of which is the Cobb decision overturning Roe v. Wade. But beyond that, there's a whole string of successes in terms of bills that have been passed. On the other side, the dark cloud over the other guy, the fact that the other guy is just turning into be, except for his fanatic base, poison. There are all these factors coming together that I think have just changed the outlook of how people are thinking about politics going into the midterm.
And you think that'll be enough to actually have an impact?
I think let's put it this way. It's too early to say for sure, but it used to seem like everything was hopeless. Now I think there's a very good chance of holding the Senate and a possible chance of holding the House.
No, I agree with that. I don't.
I mean, the House has structural problems because of gerrymandering, so it's a harder lift. But
yeah,
I don't know if you heard Biden's speech last night. He's come up with a line, MAGA Republicans. So the idea of positioning the entire Republican Party as Trump, I think, is a good stroke of communications.
Well, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to say something else, but I mean, isn't positioning MAGA Republicans, isn't that saying there are Trump, MAGA Republicans, and then there's other Republicans? And
Well, we can't find the other Republicans.
What?
Who are the other Republicans? We've got Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, and most of the other Republicans don't dare speak out. I mean, you might call Romney a regular Republican, but he's not making any stance against the MAGA Republicans.
Right. Well, I think that they are quiet, but I think that they actually exist, not so much in public, but in silence. I
But you know,
guess.
in terms of the primaries, it's the MAGA Republicans more than the regular Republicans who are getting the nominations. So as people go to the polls, it's going to be a choice between a MAGA Republican or a Democrat.
Yeah, I like those odds.
I do too, because I think that there's a lot, I do think that there's a lot of Republicans out there who are turning away from the Trump Republicans, the MAGA Republicans. And I think that while they may not vote Democrat, they may not vote.
Yeah,
I'll take that. I'll take staying home.
Yeah,
I'll take staying home
exactly.
too.
That's what I mean by I like the
That's what I mean. too.
numbers.
Yeah. I think it works.
But I don't know if you looked at the registration numbers. For instance, there's a surge of registrations, and women outnumbering men by 10 or 11%. The overturning Roe has it's causing tremendous hardship and many heartbreaking stories, but it is I think changed the political landscape tremendously.
Well, you know, I think that for generations now, we've had this protection, and honestly, I think people never thought that it would change, and all of a sudden it's ripped out from under us, and we are seeing and hearing about devastating stories, and they're very relatable for any woman, any person who can bear a child, because I want to include everybody in that, or you know, get pregnant. And it's gosh, you know, you just can't you can't imagine the things that people are being put through, and who's to blame for it. You know, we've got
Right. You know, you mentioned generations. You mentioned generations. I think one of the political issues is getting young people engaged in voting, and this is certainly something that is that speaks across generations, not just to older women, but younger women and younger men.
I would imagine that the Democrats are going to go really hard about what the next steps are with the Republican Party. And okay, now you can expect them to do this, this, and this. And you've seen that they have already done this.
Yeah.
You are experiencing it now. So don't doubt that they're going to go take away same-sex marriage, that they're going to take away, you know,
Contraception.
being with a same-sex partner in some cases, contraception, morning after pills, you know, all that stuff, you know, they want to do away with. And now you've got the proof that this is the path that they were on. Now you have to vote. And I think it is, you know, motivating.
If the Democrats have one problem now, it's that they have too much message. There's just so much they can say, both negative about Republicans and positive about their own achievements.
Well, I think, you know, at least there's the balance. It's not just negative stuff. It is also positive stuff. So, you know, I think that there's always that chance of, well, you know, you're just being critical. Well, no, we're not just being critical. We're also looking at some of our achievements here, and we have, you know, we are achieving some of our goals. So I think, you know, I think we've got a much better chance than we did, you know, a month ago.
Amy Walter, the Cook Political Report, posted something about this, that she also looked into spending. Apparently, in the swing states, for instance, the Democrats are outspending the Republicans. So in Arizona, for instance, there have been $6 million run of negative ads against Senator Mark Kelly, but he has run $12 million of positive ads. In Georgia, there have been a little under $5 million of negative ads against Senator Warnock, almost $12 million of positive ads. Same thing in Nevada. The The negative ads against Cortez Masso have been about 2.7 million. The positive ads have been 5.3 million. Likewise in New Hampshire. So, we don't see it because they're running in states that we're not in. But the Democrats are really outspending Republicans so far in terms of advertising.
I wonder how effective that advertising is right now. I mean, whether it's really working.
Well, if you look at the polls, the Democrats are leading. It's uncomfortably close, but the Democrats are leading in every one of those states.
Steve, you want to wrap up?
No,
No?
no, but so thanks, Michael.
So thank you. And thanks to who?
Ending to a Gillmor day.
And thank you, Tina.
And thank you, Michael. And thank you,
I
everyone.
love your blur, by the way. Your picture just pops. Your presence against that background is just wonderful.
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, my blurred background because I've got a messy kitchen.
No. I mean, you're looking fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks to everybody who showed up and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.